Hello, my YouTube friends. I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to talk about why we totally ignore valuation. What? Did I really just say that? Absolutely. Stick around in this video. I'm going to get into the reasons why and what's important to you and me and why we invest the way we do. Good afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all enjoying your Friday. Today is May 24th, I think. Forgive me if I'm off on the day. Beautiful day here in Vegas, here at the courtyard in my office. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I don't pay too close attention to valuation. I know that sounds silly because we all want to get great deals, but the problem is I'm going to use an example right off the bat. Now, before I get into it, this is not financial advice. I know I say it all the time. I really mean it. You guys need to do your own research for making your choices of what you want to buy or sell or what you want to own. It's important. It's important that you match what fits your stage of life, your financial position, and everything else. What I hope to do is just encourage people to save and put away and be in a good financial position, period. Now, that being said, the example I wanted to use is a company like Costco, and I'll give a couple others. You know, Costco's trading at what looks like a 50 times price earnings ratio. But they're a great company. Do you not want to own Costco? On top of the fact, I mentioned it maybe a month ago when it was almost $100 cheaper from where it is today. When I looked earlier, they're trading at $814 a share. They're up $16 today alone. Well, that's kind of my point. And you just don't know if Costco just runs and runs and runs, and you never get the opportunity to buy it at what's considered, in my mind, a fair valuation. The same goes for Apple. Apple is trading at 30 times expected earnings, and they're growing at a 4% rate. Well, seems a little overvalued if I'm doing an analysis of like a good value company. Same problem. Do I not want to own Apple because it's overpriced? What if it just keeps going and I never own it? You have to pay attention to the companies and just own great companies and trust that they're going to figure it out and outperform one way or another. I had somebody in the comments ask if I could get into the numbers because they know I look at it. No, and I don't want to be difficult about it, but the reason I don't get into it is one, they're super boring. I don't want to have videos going over the numbers, putting up the charts, talking about this one and that one and what they expect in the future. And I don't see a whole lot of value in it. I see the value of owning great companies and paying attention to if they're still well run. I try to sit in the quarterly reports. I use my best judgment of if I trust the information that the CEO is giving and if it makes sense, or if I think that they're sidestepping issues or making excuses or things like that. So I'll give two examples of that as well. Palo Alto Networks reported recently, and when I listened in on their quarterly report, what the CEO said gave me a lot of comfort. Basically, they had changed the way that they do their billing. They started going to a program where you could make installments and pay over time, and instead of making the full charge up front. The analysts hated it. The street crushed the stock. Well, the same thing happened at this quarterly earnings. They did it again. He kind of went into it and explained why. Basically, with higher interest rates, the cost of money has gone up significantly. So the companies using their system, it's harder for them to just raise the money and pay the higher interest rates. So they thought it made more sense getting them into long-term contracts and allowing them to make monthly payments. That makes a lot of sense to me as well. Well, the valuation model that the analysts use don't adjust for that. And all they see is the revenue coming in today, and they're valuing the company based on that, and they're selling off the stock. His follow-up was that he saw that as kind of silly because what they should really be looking at is how much they're growing new clients and their sales pipeline and everything else. And he also felt like by setting up these longer term contracts, it brings in the revenue over a long time frame. they also do their own analysis of whether the clients can really pay for it or not, and they don't really just take on anybody without thinking about it while they get into these longer term contracts. And he even followed up that he thought it was kind of silly that the stock was selling off upon the reports. Now it's interesting, it's already rebounded. Last I looked, they're back up to $320 a share. I kind of talked about it that after the earnings, they dropped to below $300. They were actually trading at like $290 after the close at one point. While the guy is speaking, talking about how silly he thinks it is. And at least in my judgment, he seemed really genuine about it. It wasn't just this excuse or anything else. It was him explaining to the analysts, like, no, you guys got it wrong. Look at our pipeline of clients that we're building. That gave me a lot of comfort. Flip it the other way to the Starbucks earnings, where they were down a ton. They were like, same store sales were down something like 10% on average across the board. And the CEO gave no comfort to that. Now, the stock's done okay since, but you saw the stock just get pushed and pushed lower and lower when he was giving terrible information, doing an awful job of fielding the questions. That's why I like to listen into the quarterly reports. I pay less attention to the actual numbers. I pay attention to, did they beat earnings and is the stock struggling? Did they have bad earnings and the stock seems to be bottoming out and not going lower? Somebody is taking the other side of trades, and the big investment companies do an awful lot of research into the valuations and the things that they're not going to tell us. We're not going to know if somebody's lying in the books or whatever's going on, like what was going on with Archer Daniels Midland. Also keep in mind that once we get the news, that news is priced into it. It's kind of why I've harped on Boeing. Again, their stock fell. It seemed to catch itself right back at these same levels. The news was bad. Well, somebody's decided that $170 to $175 seems to be a pretty fair value for Boeing right now. Now that could change. More bad news could come out. Another plane could go down. It could turn out that they were doing things they shouldn't be doing. But there's somebody with a lot of money, and probably multiple somebodies, who seem to think at that price it's worth the risk. I would be careful if it gets below it, which is what I said in yesterday's video, and starts pushing new lows, whether there's new news or not, because the news usually comes out a little bit late, and then by the time they're talking about it on CNBC, it's already priced in. If you noticed, or if you happen to be watching Boeing and how it traded yesterday, it was around 182, maybe it was $183, and nothing was really going on. As all of a sudden it started drifting lower, to then it just kind of collapsing. My brother and I were actually on the phone, and I said to him, hey, have you looked at Boeing? And he started looking, and he's like, oh God, something's going on, but I don't see any news. I'm like, neither do I, but it must be something big. And we just had that conversation. About 15 minutes later, when it had settled down and it finally stopped going lower and was trading around $173 a share, is when the news hit CNBC. Now, we went on to Twitter and we saw some clips of maybe what was to come, and it actually was. Twitter's a little bit quicker, so if you want that immediacy, I hate to promote them because I don't know forgive me, X, not Twitter. But they actually had the story in some of the chats going on before it hit CNBC. But my point is, by the time the news is coming out, the stocks have already moved. So making a decision based on news that's coming out now typically is already priced in. So if you're trying to decide if it's the right time to buy and you see bad news come out, I would be careful. If the stock's already fallen lower, well, maybe that's about as far as it's going to go. The other thing is, my best advice is you invest for the long term. Buy companies that you don't mind owning for 20 years. The problem for me with the Boeing trade that I'm doing is it's more of a trade. I don't really know that I want to own Boeing for 20 years. But when I look at companies like Costco and Apple and Amazon and Google and Tesla and Meta, these are companies that, unless something fundamentally changes with the company, I hope to still own in 2040 or whatever year it is. And really, I hope to not ever need it and maybe pass it on to my son. Or what I really hope is it's grown enough that as I get closer to retirement, I can move those types of investments into big, boring Johnson and Johnson type investments to give me a dividend. At least that's where my head is on that stuff. But I find it really important not to pay too much attention to the valuation and pay attention to the companies you think are the best companies in the world. And then own them and hope that they perform. I think you'll find you'll do just fine if you do that. Now, I recognize that that means I won't own Palantir. I don't know enough about it, and maybe I'll miss the move where it 50 or 100 X's over the next 10 years. But to be fair, I don't know enough about the company, and when I have watched guys who know the numbers, it does bother me that their float, or how many shares outstanding they have, has tripled in the past however many years, which tells me they just keep selling new shares either because they think the stock's overpriced, or they'll continue to dilute it even as the company grows. Now, that's not my advice. I don't know enough about Palantir. I'll stick with the first comment. But maybe I don't own the next big high flyer. I miss the next NVIDIA. But I'm more focused on owning a small amount of the current NVIDIA and trying to own the best companies. Now, one thing that I did start to add to my portfolio, I know I talked about some others in the past videos. I did start adding some Ulta Beauty. When I saw the earnings that Elf Beauty had, and Ulta Beauty had already like prepared the market that they're going to be on the lower end of their earnings, which is why I was annoyed at Starbucks. They didn't give any pre-warning. I think that's the way that you handle things, to just prepare people that sales are slowing and whatever else. They're actually on their lows. They're a great company. My wife shops there. They seem to be busy pretty much every time I go. And I bought a small enough amount that if the stock goes lower, maybe I pick up some more. But my thought process was, if the other beauty company that just reported had better than expected earnings, but guided down in preparation of a slowdown, maybe Ulta's preparation was a little premature, and hopefully it's not as bad as they've prepared people for. The reality is what they prepared for was just the lower end of their estimates. It wasn't any drastic bad news. But it drove the stock down to its lows, and it's one of those that rarely has pullbacks, and I saw that as an opportunity. Also, I don't know if you've paid attention, like I said, Palo Alto has been doing quite well. Another one of those companies that I just want to own. Um, if I wanted to put $100 into it, maybe I would just put 20 so I had something in there in case it just runs and runs and keeps going. Anyway, have a great day. I hope your Friday's going great. I hope you have some fun plans for the weekend. Now that school's out, I'm overwhelmed with how much stuff we have, even when it's just going to the jump place and the kids jumping on the trampoline. Before I forget, if you haven't already, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, make some comments. Let me know what you guys think. Are there companies I don't see? I know somebody was asking about Home Depot. I apologize. I don't pay close attention to it, so I don't have a real opinion. And I don't want to give advice on companies I don't watch or I don't look at, because I don't feel like I have good insight on it, and I don't want to just be guessing. Um, but Home Depot, it's a good company. I just don't pay attention too much. So, I'd stick to those guidelines. If you like it, or whatever company, pick the ones you like. Invest in what you know about. Anyway, I'll shut up or I'll ramble for hours. Have a great day, and check in. Bye bye. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. One last thing, and yeah, I even shifted the camera because I really was going to go. And maybe I'll say it in another video. I also want to thank you guys, not just for how many subscribers, but you guys have helped me become more patient. The more I've done these videos, and for those of you who invest, maybe you should consider it as well. The more I've been doing these videos, it's more of a reminder to myself about the things I want to do. When I teach you guys, it stops me like on a day like yesterday. I hate those days. I'm a very emotional person, even though it doesn't come across. I know I'm kind of dry in my talking and it sounds kind of monotone and whatever else. Like, I'm pretty introspective. I know who I am. But I'm super emotional even though I don't show it. On down days like yesterday, I get very upset and it's very hard for me not to sell. But doing the videos and talking about what people should do in investing has really helped me as well to be better at it and not panic on those down days and actually look for things to maybe buy that if they get into those price ranges I was hoping for. So really, thank you. I appreciate you guys allowing me this venue to talk about the markets and the trading, and it's really helped me to be much more patient in my trades. So anyway, once again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and tell me what you guys think and how you're doing in your trades. Have a good day. Bye-bye.